Okay, so Republicans are just absolutely bananas, okay? They're just bananas. And at this point, I feel like they're just freestyling. They're just trying to come up with like new and creative ways to say like women, okay? Because it's not like they're not even trying anymore. It honestly feels like they're just trying to come up with like different ways to say women can't control their own bodies. Women should not be able to control their own bodies. And they're basically empty baby incubators, okay? They're a vessel. So you guys know this, I admire the brain rot. So I love when conservatives decide, let's find a new and more creative way to say what we've been saying for a while, that like women are baby incubators and they should not be able to get abortions, right? Madison Cawthorn, friend of the show, the intellectual titan that he is, decided to say this in his general speech in the U.S. House.
Madam Speaker, imagine you've just walked out of this chamber. And outside is a gorgeous sunset. You have a Polaroid camera and you snap a beautiful picture, and the great photo prints out the front. You hold it and shake it, waiting for the picture to appear. But suddenly someone walks by and snatches your photo, ripping it to shreds. You're stunned. You cry, "Why did you destroy my picture?" The person replies, "Oh, it wasn't a picture. It wasn't fully developed yet." All of us in this room realize how asinine that reasoning is. That
Okay. Yeah, no, that is asinine. Madison Cawthorn is already a sexless nerd, okay? But nothing proves that more than this. On top of the fact that he also very clearly does not know how biology works, like how a woman's body operates. Like the only person that would ever make this comparison is a person who literally does not understand the concept of childbirth and pregnancy and how a child is conceived, okay? So first of all, the difference between an unwanted pregnancy and a wanted one is the consent of the carrier. So if you want to use a Polaroid example, the woman wants to have that photo. So if you're talking about like a woman who wants to get an abortion, then she's ripping the photo. So why are you getting mad at her? And this is, of course, before we get to the reality. Because like, it's not like abortions are happening when there's no like drive-by abortions. You know what I mean? People aren't like, "Oh, are you pregnant? Boop, punched you in the gullet. Time to get, yep, now you're aborted. Let's go." Like, that's not how this works. Like, someone doesn't just like do a drive-by abortion, okay? And also that's like heavily illegal. So the analogy doesn't work because, you know, the concept of a Polaroid is a ridiculous one to make a comparison to, because you're not like, the Polaroid is not sucking up your body's, you know, fluids and nutrients to incubate, okay? And even then, if you want to have that pregnancy, if you want to carry that pregnancy to term and someone forcibly aborts it, then that's incredibly immoral and illegal.
Photo was transforming into a beautiful image. This illustration by Seth Gruber is simple, but it's what our nation has done to the most precious image of all, the image of God.
Most precious image of all, the image of God. Look at teardrops down, dude. That's so cheese, dude. God, he's so cheesy.
But it's what our nation has done to the most precious image of all, the image of God. Madam Speaker, a silent genocide has slipped beneath the conscience of America. Precious works of our Creator, formed and set apart, meet death before they breathe life. Eternal souls woven into earthen vessels, sanctified by Almighty God and endowed with the miracle of life, are denied their birth by a nation that was born.
I just don't believe he's religious. Like, that's the other part of this, where like, I mean, he's too much of a fucking zoomer to be like actually religious. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he is. I just can't see him being like a religious person.
Freedom.
My man said the silent genocide of babies, dude. Madam Speaker, every time I jerk off into a napkin, that is a silent genocide happening. Why can I not get coochie? Madam Speaker.
God's breath of life blown away by the breath of man. This cruel and fallen world may seem too filthy for their very presence, but these precious temples are crafted in the image of God himself. One day, perhaps when science darkens the soul of the left, our nation will repent. But until then, the carnage of this unconscionable deed will stain the fabric of our nation. I hope that the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. I hope that we stop the genocide of abortion in this country. With that, I yield back.
It's really good. He was really spitting on this one. I love that. I love when conservatives are like, let's try something different today. Let's do something different. Let's go outside of the weird March for Life talking points that we got. You know what I mean? Anyway, I love that one. But of course, that's Madison Cawthorn. That's not the intellectual giant of the right. The intellectual giant of the right is Ben Shapiro. Here's what Ben Shapiro had to say about women getting abortions in Texas.
Even if Roe versus Wade is overturned, the law in New York is not going to be the same as the law in Mississippi. And everybody who studies law understands this because that was the case before Roe versus Wade. California had some pretty liberal abortion laws. New York had some pretty liberal abortion laws. And
what was the reason, I wonder, that Roe versus Wade happened, though? Like, why? Why did it had to happen then? Liberal activist judges in the Supreme Court. Right? Is that why? Is that why it happened? Okay, good. So we both agree, okay, that the Supreme Court is just bullshit.
Texas had some pretty strict abortion laws before Roe versus Wade went into place. Nonetheless, the fact that the Supreme Court is now considering the possibility of disestablishing a constitutional right to abortion, which again, does not exist. It was made up out of whole cloth in an entire line of cases.
Every law, by the way. I love when conservatives, in an effort to dismantle a particular subject, will just straight up argue against the entire concept, okay? Oh, it was made out of whole cloth. Oh, you mean the Constitution, dude? That's kind of how laws work. The constitutional interpretation is also like the legal interpretation, the originalist interpretation versus like Constitution being like a living organism aren't necessarily all that far apart. It's just a different way to say I'm biased towards this side of the political spectrum versus that. Okay? So yeah, it is all made up whole cloth, technically. Those are all laws. There is no like law of nature there, okay? That's just not a thing.
Cases stretching all the way back to Griswold through Eisenstadt v. Baird, all the way up through Planned Parenthood versus Casey. That supposed constitutional right to abortion was made up directly out of the colons of Supreme Court justices who had political leanings in favor of a pro-choice position, even if it were overruled.
Okay, and now it's being overruled potentially by those who have an anti-choice position, right? That's what he's going to say, because that's giving the game away. And I agree. If Ben came out and said that, I would agree, because I do agree with that. I think it's bullshit. The originalist interpretation, as I've said time and time again, okay, the constitutional interpretation from an originalist perspective is just reactionary politics painted with an intellectual patina. Whenever people say like, oh, I'm an originalist, like, no, you're that's not a real position that you consistently hold. You are just simply a Republican or a conservative, and you're trying to make it work by saying like, oh, actually, there's a real way that I'm looking at it, an intellectual way that I'm looking at the situation. Bullshit. Not real.
If ladies want to get abortions, all they have to do is not be in Texas.
Great. But that's not so simple. Even with the trap laws in a Roe versus Wade world that we live in, it's already profoundly difficult for people to be able to get safe and easy abortions. Okay? In red states already. It's been functionally fucking destroyed. The Roe v. Wade precedent has been destroyed in red states. They do everything they can to create fake clinics that can legally lie to you, or the doctor can legally lie to you about like the baby has a heartbeat right now. Like you can listen to classical music. It's incredibly difficult because like there's very few abortion clinics that you can go to, or places where they can offer abortion that you can go to. And it's certainly not going to happen with ease in a state like Texas, especially if you're like a 14-year-old, for example. If they live in a town in bumfuck nowhere in Texas, they have to find some kind of public transportation if they don't have a car. But let's say they have a car for the sake of this argument. They have to drive for hours, sometimes half a fucking day, to a different town where there is an abortion clinic, okay? And because of some of the laws that are put in places like Texas, well, they're 14, they can't even fucking drive. They might have to literally go back, wait for 48 hours after they already pulled the trigger on, like, wanting to get the abortion, and then come back again. And they're 14-year-olds in this case, so they're driving illegally. There you go. The state in question is Mississippi, that only has one clinic that offers abortions. And even then, they want to be the state that destroys. They want to be the state that has their name on the docket. These 6 states show how the Supreme Court could end abortion access without overruling Roe v. Wade. In 24 states, there are unnecessary restrictions on the provisions of abortion care. Time and time again, countless amounts of studies have concluded that making abortions illegal or restricting access to abortions does not actually stop abortions from happening. If you want to stop abortions from happening, the best possible thing you can do is offer reproductive health care services to people at an early age and educate them on sex ed and improve their material conditions. Okay? Those are the effective ways of reducing the number of abortions because you're reducing the number of unwanted pregnancies. And I don't mean abstinence-only sex education. I mean real sex education. Restricting access to abortions actually does not decrease the number of abortions overall. It just creates back alley abortions. Because at the end of the day, the carrier, the woman, okay, can shut off the fetus because the fetus is reliant on the carrier. The difference between a baby and a parasite is consent from the mother. That's it. If something is growing inside of you and you do not want to carry that pregnancy to term for a multitude of different reasons, you should be able to get an abortion safely, free of scrutiny, and for free.
They could go over the border to Mexico, and presumably they'd be able to get an abortion there. They could go over to California, get an abortion there. Listen, I would prefer a nationwide regime wherein no one can get an abortion except in cases where the mother's life is in danger. But that's not the way the federalist system works. And
why? Why except for when the mother's life is in danger? Let's think about that for a second. Except for cases where the mother's life is in danger implies that there are instances where the autonomy of the carrier overrides the potential life. Why can't you expand on that? You are basically fucking putting people into a situation where they are forcibly carrying a pregnancy to term. If the mother is still alive, you can't recognize that only in instances where that life might be in jeopardy. I think that the autonomy of the living, breathing human being, that is the mother, the carrier, is more important in all of the instances and overrules and overrides the potential life that may exist. Because if you were honest and you're like, well, the baby needs to fucking come out one way or the other, then you have to force a woman to carry pregnancy to term even if their life is in jeopardy. Because the fetus is more important. Fetus's life is more important. The potential to life of the fetus is more important and more sacred than the life of the mother. Because that is what pro-abortion, or not pro-abortion, sorry. That is what anti-choice, pro-forced pregnancy carriers believe. They're always, in every single circumstance, putting the interest of the fetus and the potential viability of that fetus outside the womb over the interest of the carrier, over the interest of the mother.
And because of that, that means that there will be state differences in how abortion law is applied. But the left is losing it.
This is always your take on this growing up in Turkey, or did you come to this conclusion later? An incredibly Americentric opinion there. There are plenty of countries where you can get safe and free abortions. In Turkey, there's a public healthcare system. That means there are public hospitals that the government pays for with your taxes. You can get abortions in those public hospitals. Some places might not do the procedure. And I know Turkish chatters will say, oh, that's not true. Like some places will not do the procedure or whatever. In Turkey, you can get an abortion at a public hospital for free. So no, I did not have a different opinion on abortion ever. Like I don't consider the living children in their argument. Like if I got pregnant now, I would probably want to have an abortion because having a kid would make my living child's life worse. Or the living your life worse too. That's another problem. If you want to watch more of this,
losing it. They are losing it. And the reason they're losing it is because once you remove the constitutional right to abortion, once you say that there is no constitutional right to abortion, this brings back into play the rules of nature. And this is something that the left has been fighting very hard, as I pointed out yesterday. For the left, equality of outcome is the only metric of success in a society.
It's just like Ben does this thing that's fucking incredible where he just straight up makes stuff up about the left. And a lot of the people in his echo chamber, I know that these are like terms that people love using against me. A lot of people in his echo chamber absolutely never feel the need to go hear about the left at all because they can just get what the left is saying from Ben Shapiro. But that's not what the left is saying at all. First of all, the left has never been united, even if there is a left in America. Equality of outcome, rules of nature. The left These are all just completely made up, vague generalities that Ben uses to attack a straw man. Okay? And we're not going to watch this entire video because it goes into so many different things. I am just talking exclusively about this part with the Supreme Court and his takes.
And there are certain natural barriers to equality of outcome in every arena of life. And some people are told
this has nothing to do with abortions either. The nature of law is all the law of nature is also fucking insane, like an insane take. Yeah, dude. Bears eat their children when they're hungry. You know, that's the fucking law, the natural law, baby.
Some people are shorter. Some people are dumber. Some people are smarter. One of the great obstacles to equality of outcome in life are physical differences between men and women.
People don't want equality of outcome. They want equality of opportunity. And the unfortunate reality is that equality of opportunity has never been established in this country. And people like Ben Shapiro and all of these other people on the right regularly and routinely lie about how there is equality of opportunity here on this planet, but especially in America, okay, which is completely false. There's no equality of opportunity if you're born in an African country, if you're born in India. There's no equality, especially to a lower caste or, you know, poorer family or whatever. There's no equality of opportunity there. And there's certainly no equality of opportunity in America. There's no equality of opportunity to a kid born into a family in O Block where one of their parents, also as a consequence of systemic racism, is in jail. You know what I mean? Versus a guy who was born into a wealthier suburban upper middle class family in fucking Naperville. It's not a thing. There's no equality of opportunity there. So you can fucking cry about like how left wants equality of outcome, whatever the fuck. It's not a real thing. It's never been a real thing. And it's just a bullshit straw man that they fucking cry about.
Men and women do not operate the same way. Their bodies do not operate the same way. And women very often make choices that are dependent on their ability to bear and rear children. And they like those choices for the most part. This has been the greatest superpower of women since time immemorial, is that women are capable of bearing children and then feeding the children with their own body and bringing those children up. And by the way, when women are given the opportunity to take time off from the workforce to spend time with children, they are far more likely to do so than fathers are. And so the attempt—
Yeah, I wonder why, bro. There's no fucking federal mandate for maternal leave. It's preposterous to make this argument. We don't even have maternal leave, let alone paternal leave. It's just ridiculous that he's just saying this. I gotta pee.
Crack down on motherhood, which has been an aspect of the far left, has now taken over the entire left. So
this is so ridiculous, dude. People don't want to crack down on motherhood. If there's anyone that wants to crack down on motherhood, it's Republican psychopaths, okay? Family leave is a huge part of what the left argues for in terms of social safety nets that provide a comfortable buffer for those who want to have children. Ben Shapiro, who literally argues every step of the way against labor rights, turns around and says, oh, the left doesn't want you to have children. It's like, it's so stupid, dude. Anyone who wants to have a child should be able to have a child. Anyone who wants to have an ad-free broadcasting experience at the top of the hour as well, when there's a 60-second ad break, should be able to have it. You know that was a good-ass segue. I'm not even going to front. That was just straight up fire. You know you got him when you straight up get fuck you from chat? Yeah. Going back to the main point I was making, which is that this idea that the left doesn't want you to have children is ridiculous. If anything, the left wants you to be able to have some kind of material quality of life that makes it easier for you to be able to have a child. Whether that be enough money at your place of work that only one parent can work and the other one can, you know, stay at home. Or even when both parents work, make enough money that they can actually, get ample daycare and not just fucking leave your kids in front of the TV so they listen to the HasanAbi broadcast all day and get hit left and right by ad breaks at the top of the hour. Okay? That's what people want. This idea that like Republicans that literally make it so that you have to fucking pop out a child on your fucking lunch break and then come back and work the counter. This idea that like in an ANCAP world, this idea that in Ben Shapiro's future, like a company could just fucking straight up be like, yeah, you have to get back to work, woman, right after you gave that fucking, right after you delivered that baby. That's not a world in which people can easily fucking have children. So if you're actually pro childbirth and you want more people to have children, then, you know, improve their material conditions so they can do it with ease. And they don't have to like see it as a financial struggle. If it's 50 grand to fucking pop out a kid, that's a burden. People don't want to be saddled by medical debt. Advocate for Medicare for all. You will never do that. Bullshit. I gotta pee. I'll be back.
To say that abortion used to be, it should be rare in very circumscribed cases because, you know, it's really a bad thing and you need to allow it to be legal because you never know, something really bad could happen. You might need an abortion, right? That used to be the case. Now, it is a centralized aspect of femininity that abortion be there. It is central to womanhood that you be able to terminate your pregnancy. This is a very different position than the position that the left used to hold even as late as the 1990s pretty consistently. Now the position is that in order for women to achieve the same outcomes as men, women have to be able to, for any reason, rid their bodies of a human life with potential. And so the fact that the Supreme Court is now considering getting rid of the quote-unquote constitutional right to abortion means that the left has lost its mind. And they are going to spout nonsense and craziness and make arguments that have no internal logic to them. And this is what happened all day yesterday. All day yesterday, you got from the media just the craziest positions, unsustainable, illogical, insane, immoral positions being spouted by the left on a regular basis. Okay, so one of the questions that you should be asking yourself when it comes to the left's perspective on abortion is why they feel this way about abortion particularly. And it's kind of strange. So if you go back and you read early Margaret Sanger, who's the founder of Planned Parenthood, she was quite anti-abortion. Margaret Sanger thought that it was a threat to human life, abortion. Margaret Sanger was in favor of contraception. She was in favor of birth control. But
none of this is related to the conversation that women should be able to get abortions. And the idea that like abortion should be rare and safe is not actually the wrong thing to fucking say. Yeah, it's still an experience that can be traumatizing. Okay, what's it to you? All right, Hasan. So I was wondering, what if it was actually easy to have children? Would abortion still be allowed? Yeah, of course. Of course, dude. Because unwanted pregnancies are still going to occur, even if fucking child rearing is a thing. The whole point of the abortion argument is that, unfortunately, because we still live in a patriarchal society, we rarely ever center this around the experience of the woman. We only see the women as baby incubators, okay? We only see the women as a vessel, an empty vessel. The whole fucking point of the abortion conversation is that it needs to center around women having bodily autonomy over their own fucking bodies. It's literally a medical procedure that we are deciding artificially someone can't have. And that is insane. And it pisses me off, dude.
Abortion as a method of birth control is something that was opposed by even wild leftists in the 1920s, 1930s, when Margaret Sanger was a prominent political figure in the United States. And birth control is now widely available in the United States. It's universally available in the United States. It is not difficult to obtain birth control. In fact, the West has gotten so good at birth control that we are depopulating ourselves out of existence. Every Western country, with the exception of Georgia in Europe and Israel, has a below replacement rate population problem. Right? We are producing fewer children than there are parents in the population. In order to reproduce at replacement rates, you have to have at least 2.1 children per family. Right now, most of the West is at 1.7, 1.8, and Italy 1.3. Right, so
Ben Shapiro is literally like, we need to fucking destroy sex ed and education in general and like the opportunities that people have so we can go back to the fucking same birth rates that we once had. That's an insane fucking talking point, dude. I mean, that's just like the dog whistle turning into a fucking bullhorn. The replacement rates. The great replacement. Don't worry, brother. There's still people fucking coming out. Okay? People are still popping out babies. But yeah, the Margaret Sanger conversation is really fucking annoying, okay? Because yes, as a eugenicist, or as someone who believes in eugenics, which is inherently racist and ableist, literally revolved around making people sterile, okay? Infertile if they had traits that were considered to be not good. And at the time, being black or being disabled was considered that way. That part of eugenics is racist inherently and ableist inherently. But this idea that Margaret Sanger's work in reproductive health was about that is silly, because she wouldn't have set up abortion clinics or at least like offer abortion to women that were not black. if that was the case. You would only suspiciously do it in black neighborhoods, right? So having a black and white fucking take on this is so idiotic. It really pisses me off. He wanted to offer reproductive freedom to black and brown people and literally worked with black and brown community members at the time. It's so fucking annoying that people constantly do that. Like, Twitter, do your thing. It's Margaret Sanger. Twitter, do your thing. On, like, people throughout history. It's so stupid. It's like, can you imagine how powerful J. Edgar Hoover, Agitprop, and COINTELPRO, and like J. Edgar Hoover's like mission was? That like even people now, like actual fucking Zoomers, just say dumbass bullshit like, I found out that MLK actually was like abusive to his wife. It's like, dude, you literally, that is FBI propaganda, okay? That is made up blackmail from the FBI that wanted to tarnish MLK's reputation, and you're fucking jumping on it as a fucking dumbass Zoomer because that's how easy it is to manipulate you. I actually was like this a while back, and a timeout in this very stream is what snapped me out of it. My man's for real been on TikTok because that's been everywhere on it. Yeah. It's so sad to see. There was a video that got over 1 million views on TikTok talking about MLK misinfo, and when the creator was called out about it, they didn't give any sources. Yeah. Sources, the FBI.